You know, everybody, I'm a huge Les Paul fan. I'm an avid Les Paul player. However, I'm not naive to the fact that they're not for everyone. So in this video, I want to talk about why you should not buy a Les Paul and why they might not be right for you. So what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. My name is Andrew Raymond Charles, and the Les Paul is probably either my first or second favorite guitar of all time. They just really inspire me. They remind me of my heroes. They remind me of being a kid, learning how to play guitar. I really have always loved a Les Paul. This one right here is a Gibson Les Paul Custom, the Silver Burst one. It's not an Adam Jones, it's just a plain old 70th commemorative anniversary Les Paul Custom, and this is, in fact, my dream guitar. But enough about me, let's talk about why we're here today, and that is why, if you're contemplating getting a Les Paul, here is a reason or two that you might want to think twice about it. So, like, comment, subscribe, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below about Les Pauls, and with that being said, here are the reasons why you should not get a Les Paul. Number one, the weight. These things are heavy. All the Les Pauls that I've ever played, the ones that I've really liked were the non-weight relieved guitars. And there's a reason why Gibson offers weight relieved Les Pauls is because these things are massive pieces of wood. This one right here is one of the heaviest guitars I own. I think the heaviest guitar I do own is, in fact, my 1978 Gibson Les Paul Custom, the natural finish one from the New Orleans era. This one right here, this is one of my favorite guitars I've ever owned. It's been toured with, it's been played a whole bunch, worn in really, really nicely. This thing weighs a ton, everybody. So if you have health problems, if you have back problems, if you have any sort of ailment, a Les Paul may not be the right guitar for you because they're heavy. Now, like I said, Gibson does offer weight relieved options, but I don't know if it's really necessarily true, but it is inferred that the weight relieved guitars don't sound as good as the ones that are full solid pieces of wood. I can't confirm or deny that, but I will say this from my own experience, having owned probably close to a dozen Les Pauls in my life now, all the ones that I really like and all the ones that I've kept for a long time or I've kept even still to this day are non-weight relieved, okay? The next reason why you shouldn't buy a Les Paul is the scale length. So in case you guys are unfamiliar with what the scale length means, it's the distance between the bridge and the nut at the headstock. That's a scale length. So a Gibson scale length, 99% of the time, is 24 3/4 inch scale. And that is a little bit shorter to, say, a Fender guitar scale length, which is 25.5 inches. The shorter scale length does wonders for like higher tunings, like standard tuning and, you know, drop D or D standard. But once you start to get down into like the drop C's, the drop B's, the A's and the G's, I don't even know if you can get down that far. But once you start detuning your guitar, you run into a lot of tuning issues and a lot of intonation issues. I toured with this guitar with For the Fallen Dreams, and I had it all the way down in drop A sharp, and I only needed it for 3 songs. And I had to run baritone strings on this guitar. I believe the string gauge I was using back then was 13 to 72 just to keep it in drop A sharp. And that was very, very uncomfortable to play. Meaning those strings were like bridge cables and they were not easy to play. And it was a chore to get through those 3 songs live every single night. I did it because I loved this guitar and I wanted to tour with this guitar. But when I went out with FTFD for the second time, lo and behold, I brought a Stratocaster, right? So the shorter scale length, in my opinion, feels better for like normal tunings like standard and drop D and stuff like that. But as soon as you start to get lower and lower, this scale length, in my opinion, is not the most favorable scale length, which is why baritones exist, for example. All right, the next reason why you might not want to buy a Les Paul is the heel joint. Now, some of the more modern Les Pauls have done some innovation to cut away and give you a better access heel. But generally speaking, still to this day, that heel joint is still how most of the Gibson Les Pauls are made today. And that right there, everybody, is not that very comfortable if you're a lead player. Like if you want to get up to the 22nd fret, look where my thumb has to go on the guitar to get to that fret. It has to like go literally on the back of the body. So that is a bit uncomfortable. Now me, I'm more often than not the Malcolm Young of any sort of endeavor that I do. I solo every once in a while, but when I'm soloing on a Les Paul or writing leads on a Les Paul, I'm not going to deny the fact that this right here does not feel the best. It is pretty uncomfortable. So if you're a shredder, if you want to higher access frets, either find a Les Paul with a cutaway heel joint or perhaps look elsewhere and get a different guitar, right? Next reason why you might not want to buy a Les Paul is they are so expensive. So I bought this guitar used, full transparency, in early 2019 for $2,500. Now, in present day, if I was to buy a 1978 New Orleans era Les Paul Custom without a headstock break and more or less all original, I would probably have to pay double what I paid for it, or very, very close to it. I think we would be touching $4,000 at this point. Devil's advocate to it being expensive is I think these guitars have the most value for the resale market. Like, if you want to get rid of your Les Paul, it'll probably hold value the most out of any guitar out there. But in order to get one, you do have to fork over a decent chunk of change to get there. And I bought this one right here, my 2022 Gibson Les Paul Custom. I bought it in 2023 and it was virtually brand new, but there's an obvious defect, and that is the headstock joint was broken, and then it was fixed and then showed up at my house broken again. So it's already had 2 headstock repairs and it's only 2 years old. So, you know, you guys could say, why is this your dream guitar if it's already broken? That's totally fine. You're totally entitled to your opinion. But I took on this guitar as a project and I wanted to more or less rescue it. You know what I mean? So even still, I had to pay over $2,000 for this guitar and it was technically broken, right? So it's kind of interesting. Guitar players are kind of funny, speaking at myself as much as anybody. Like, paying a lot of money for either an old dinosaur or something that's broken, you know, you're going to have to fork over a lot of money compared to, say, some of the competitors. And, you know, it's kind of silly, right? I'm not naive to that. You get what you pay for in terms of resale value. And I just love these things, man. I think they're inspiring. I love Gibson guitars, and I've always wanted this guitar my whole life, and I finally got one, right? And last but not least, this is a nice segue. Speaking on the headstock joint and the headstock angle is very, very weak on Gibson guitars and especially Les Pauls, so they are very susceptible to being broken. This Gibson Les Paul's headstock's broken. That Gibson Les Paul headstock is broken. This one, knock on wood, is not, but this one also does have a volute from the 70s. So, and you know, that's a lot of people's complaints, is like that headstock angle and that wood right there is very, very thin, and these things break all the time. Now, again, devil's advocate, guitar players, I think they try to convince themselves that once a headstock breaks, it sounds better. I don't know if that's true or not, but, you know, I have heard that, and, you know, it is what it is. But I will say this, once you repair the headstock, it never breaks again, or at least in my experience, it's never broken again. And they say it's sturdier than it was before, so, you know, take that with a huge grain of salt. But, again, if you're interested in getting a Gibson or a single cut or a Les Paul or anything like that, just keep in mind that these do break quite frequently, but one could infer that that's the charm of this. If you want to like try to do some mental gymnastics, they do break a lot, but it is what it is, right? So that being said, everybody, those are the reasons why I don't think you should get a Les Paul. Now, I want to end this video by saying this, and I kind of said it in the beginning of this video. This is not Gibson hate. This is Gibson love, more or less. But I am going to just be honest and transparent with the things that I don't necessarily like about these guitars, and I think a lot of players would say the same thing. But all that being said, I love Gibson guitars so much. I always have, and I hope I always will, but I think I always will, man. These things inspire me. I've toured with both of these guitars all over the United States in the past couple years, so, you know, they're my favorite guitars out there, with the exception of maybe like a Stratocaster. So, yeah, I just sincerely dig Gibson guitars and Les Pauls. All right, everybody, that's the video for today. What do you guys think of my thoughts and opinions? Leave them down below in the comment section. I love you guys so much. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe like I asked you before. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the video very, very soon. Later.